Michael, it's a pleasure. It's a pleasure to have you back with us, Michael, and we look forward to hearing from you. So you're starting with a brief reading, and let's do that now.
Thank you. Reading is from Malcolm X, and as follows: Americans' conscience is bankrupt. The last, I'm sorry, I can't read my right. Conscious, a long time, she lost her conscience a long time ago. Uncle Sam has no conscience. They don't know what needs are. They don't try to eliminate an evil because it's evil or because it's illegal or because it's immoral. They eliminate it only when it threatens their existence. So you're wasting your time appealing to the moral conscience of a bankrupt man like Uncle Sam. If he had a conscience, he'd straighten this thing out with no more pressure being put upon him. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. And so now it's time for our offertory. This is where we take an offering, and we know it's the gifts of all of us that help support our ability to thrive and gather. Links and instructions are posted in the chat. So you can mail us a check or donate through PayPal, which is on the giving page of our website. Please give as generously as you can, especially now that our furnace is in trouble. Our offerings will be gratefully received.
I have a dream, freedom. I have a dream, brotherhood. Oh, I have a dream, freedom. Walking hand in hand to the promised land. Martin Luther, a man named King, worked to ease pain and suffering of brothers and sisters, black and white. He preached love and hope and tried to set things right. He said freedom, he said justice, he said I have a dream. He said I have a dream, freedom. I have a dream, brotherhood. I have a dream, freedom. Walking hand in hand to the promised land. Martin Luther King, he set us free, fighting for freedom and equality. He said, walk and be proud and bend the word. He said, freedom, he said, justice. We heard, I have a dream. I have a dream, freedom. I have a dream, brotherhood. I have a dream, freedom. Walking hand in hand to the promised land. Walking hand in hand to the promised land.
Oh, and now please join us in singing hymn 156, Oh Freedom. Oh, yes. Sorry.
Oh, freedom, oh, freedom, oh, freedom over me. And before I'd be a slave, I'd be buried in my grave and go home to by God and be free. No more moaning, no more moaning, no more moaning over me. And before I'd be a slave, I'd be buried in my grave and go home singing, they'll be singing, they'll be singing over me. And before I'd be a slave, I'd be buried in my grave and go home to my God and be free.
Thank you, Kevin and Carolyn. That was lovely. And now it's time for the sermon. So, Michael, I turn it over to you.
Thank you, everyone, for having me today. I want to say in advance that this may not be what people expected, but here it is. My sermon is titled Rise Up. Many of you are familiar with this phrase from Dr. King, so I won't repeat it right now. There is so much today to be unhappy about. And I'm not going again to get into a long list. I will, however, suggest that there have been throughout the history of our nation many, many things that people have been unhappy about, and that have not only caused people to be unhappy, but have cost thousands and thousands and thousands of people's lives. People who gave their lives in the service of what I would like to say the best values of our nation. It's easy in these times to give up, to say, as some people have said, that they are hanging on, that they are waiting to see what happens, to they're fearful of what goes on, and all these things in some senses are legitimate. It is easy now to feel sorry for ourselves, for those of us who hold different values and political beliefs than the administration that will take over this week. It is, in some senses, the easy thing to do, although I realize that in some senses might offend certain people. As I said before, there have been numerous times in the history of our nation when there are these kind of crises for those who see it as a crisis. I just want to make a small note here. I am going to avoid using names throughout this because of trying to be nonpartisan as our congregation's tradition is. It is easy to ridicule as well. Certain people, certain situations, certain things that are going on. It is easy to do those things. It is comforting in some senses to do those things. I remember, of course, when the first time around with this incoming administration, there was an enormous amount of disbelief and ridicule that where we are would ever happen. I'd like to, I guess, remind people of a couple of things. One is that as a presidential historian, of course, and as many of you know, the presidency is the only office that every American of voting age votes for. We all vote differently for our senators and representatives and local school boards and similar things. I would like to suggest that rather than sadness or ridicule which people are entitled to, that in some senses they follow King and rise up. That the rising does not have to be dramatic, but there are throughout the nation many opportunities for people to change things by being involved in the politics of their local level. Whether it is their city council, whether it is their school board, whether it's your neighborhood watch. There are just numerous opportunities for people to take part in the democracy we have. Many people faced even more difficulty than we do now. Many people gave their lives and treasure and other things to ensure that our democracy survives. We, in some senses, have less of a task because, in some senses, our task is to take part in the democracy we have, to go and vote, to go and, as I said, be a part of the numerous opportunities there are to participate in democracy. It doesn't really do a great deal to just be sad. People, of course, have a right to be sad. I'm sad. They have a right to be unhappy with the way things are. But again, I would encourage, in the words of King, to rise up and participate in the many opportunities there are. To that end, I'd like to offer a couple of short stories about rising up that have influenced my own life. One is the story of my father-in-law, George. He was, in addition to my father-in-law, one of my best friends. He served in the military in the 1950s. He ended up losing his vision slowly over time. And after a while of being sorry for himself and being sorry for the way things turned out, he took advantage of opportunities presented to go through rehabilitation. And from that point on in his life, he participated in more activities than I can name in the time I have to help others who suffered from all kinds of disability. The Blinded Veterans of America, the VA, the Disabled Veterans of America, the Lions Club, the various organizations to which he gave a large part of the remainder of his life. I was lucky enough to have the opportunity to join him in these activities, and it, in many ways, really widened my view of the possibilities that we all have to make the world a better place. A second story I have that, in some real way, changed a young man, myself, in the way I look at the world today. As a historian, it's easy to get to the place where you say, well, all these things that were difficult have either gone away or in the process of going away, whether it is rights for the other differently abled, women, certain subgroups. There is, in some senses, a kind of progressive view that these things will get better as time passes. And in the 19, what is it now? The 1980s, when I was in graduate school, I was teaching an introductory American history class. And I came across a short video of the legendary African-American reformer Ida Wells. And I thought, being the kind of cocky young professor that I was, like, this would be great. It'd fit in with what I was doing, and it'll be nicely fit the syllabus and what we're talking about. When it came to show the video, and after the video had been shown, and I was at the desk shuffling papers, putting things away, I looked up and there was a line of African American women who simply wanted to shake my hand. It is and remains, I'm sorry if I, one of the most moving experiences of my entire career. I was totally taken off guard by this. And it allowed me, again, to think about these things not as things of the past, but as things of the present. And that what I do still has meaning in all sorts of ways. It was, as I say, just for a very young professor, actually not a professor yet, still in graduate school, to, I don't know, to change the way I thought about things from the academic to the personal, something I will never forget. Today, as you've seen, I have a hard time relating the story without weeping. It was, I can't even begin to convey the change it made for me. Lastly, before I get to talk to Dr. King a little bit, throughout the Midwest, in high school or small college locker rooms of sports, there are various kinds of signs that are designed to encourage and pump up people. In some of those locker rooms, there is a sign, well worn, as the athletes have touched it over the years on their way out to the field, whether that says simply this: there are no great people. There are only ordinary people who at certain times are called upon to do great things. And in some senses, again, that's just been profound for me, that all of us, in many ways, can make the world a better place. You don't have to be great. You have to be present. And particularly, you have to be present in the moment. That is another aspect of the sign. Whether you're the athletic part of it was, if you're sitting on the bench or no matter, you're part of the team and you have to be ready, because you never know when you will be called upon in your life to make a difference. And so you have to be ready. You have to go out into the world and be aware of the world and what goes on, because you don't know when you will be in a position to make a huge difference, to make a small difference. And the moment may pass quickly if you're not aware of it and if you don't act. Again, that has always resonated with me as a way to live in the world. And I see it connected today to the things that we have going on. It's easy to bemoan things that have happened. It's easy to be sad, to make what's happened the butt of humor. But to be ready and to act is the thing that will change the world. And to get lastly to our guest, not guest, I guess guest in spirit, the person we honor today, Dr. King, I think sometimes we only think about the Washington speech, all the people, when you look at the massive crowd and that particular moment. King was so much more than that in the way that he infused his own life with what he believed. There is, of course, I don't know if this is famous or not, it's famous to me. I don't know if any of you have ever seen the series Star Trek. I imagine that you have. There is the African American character, Lieutenant Uhura. And the actress who plays her, whose name I can't recall at this point, was uncertain about doing the part because the part she would have been given was the part that she had, essentially the person who answered the space phone. And Dr. King actually talked to her and said, "You have to do this. You need to do this. We need to get people out there, no matter how it seems now, you have to do this." And so King's influence was not simply on his legendary oratory and his public appearances, but what he did on a daily basis on things that few of us remember and some of us don't know about. That was the way he caused people to live their lives every day, to not just rise up for the dramatic occasions, but to live our lives in that way. As you know, he himself went to prison for his beliefs. Again, not taking the opportunity to avoid this, but standing with the ordinary people who lived their daily basis just to survive. He gave his life in this kind of circumstance. As many of you know, King was assassinated on the occasion of giving a speech to sanitation workers who were on strike. So, and by that time of his career, he had come to see, well, I don't mean to, he had always, in some senses, known that this struggle was more than just about African Americans and whites and that kind of thing, but it was about economic justice. It was about justice, all forms. And he gave his life in that service. It is not, I hope, necessary for any of us to make that kind of sacrifice to give our lives, although many have along the way. But to honor King is, I think, to live your daily life as if at any moment you are called upon to do great things, no matter how we look at ourselves, to honor the people who, like Malcolm X, like Dr. King, like Dr. Bobby Kennedy, to go on, despite the fact that they gave their lives for this. Whether it's the four at Kent State, my home state, or people around the country and around the world. So, in some senses, that becomes, to me, the legacy of Dr. King, not just on civil rights and for African Americans, but for all, as he says in his famous speech, we'll all be, should we carry on? And again, I'm not going to quote the whole thing directly, but his tagline, free at last, free at last. Young lady, free at last. So to me, for his message is to rise up, to rise up. When you rise up out of your seat today, and I realize it's kind of ironic since we're all sitting at home, but to rise, when you rise up in the morning, when you rise up from your seat, when you rise up from whatever place you are, whether rising up means your wheelchair, whether rising up means you need assistance, whether rising up is simply the ordinary act of getting out of bed in the morning, that you think about and are ready to make a difference, because you never know. You don't know. You're like those young second stringers on the football team. You, at any moment, might be presented with the opportunity to make a difference in the realm in which you live. I think that may be all I have in some senses. So thank you for this opportunity. Peace to us all.
Thank you, Michael. That was lovely. I think we are in a place where, yes, that opportunity is going to arise, I think, for all of us, each in our own ways, and that's inspiring. Thank you. So now it's time for our closing hymn. And so please join in singing hymn 149, Lift Every Voice and Sing.
Lift every voice and sing till earth and heaven ring, ring with the harmonies of liberty. Let our rejoicing rise high as the listing skies. Let it resound loud as a rolling sea. Sing a song full of the faith that the dark past has taught us. Sing a song full of the hope that the present has brought us. Facing the rising sun of our new day begun, let us march on till victory is won. Stony the road we trod, bitter the chastening rod, felt in the days when hope unborn had died. Yet with a steady beat of our own weary feet, come to the place for which our fathers sighed. We have come over a way that the tears has rotted. We have come treading the path through the blood of the slaughtered. Out from the gloomy past till now we stand at last, where the white gleam of a bright star is cast. God of our weary years, God of our silent tears, Thou who hast brought us thus far on the way, Thou who hast by Thy might led us into the light, keep us forever in the path we pray, lest our feet stray from the places, our God, which has met Thee, lest our hearts, drunk with the wine of the world, we forget Thee. Shadows beneath Thy hand, may we forever
Thank you, Kevin and Carolyn. I invite you to join me in extinguishing our chalice. You can find, oh, no, not in our order of service. We'll just have to remember it. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth,
The warmth of
the warmth of
community.
community, or the fire of commitment. For these we carry in our hearts until we are together again. Okay, and these. And for our closing words, bear with me for a minute here. I don't know why all my pages are sticking together this morning, but they are. Our closing words, We Shall Overcome by John Johnstone. We shall overcome when we can truly celebrate the diversity of contributions and talents offered by all people. We shall overcome hatred and prejudice and oppression. When we can truly extend our hands to one another in loving acceptance, we shall overcome the past that haunts us now. Living in peace and freedom, we shall overcome the wrongs that have happened and the debts left unpaid. Let us join together in that commitment to overcome.
Wait. Oh, he said what? Okay.
Well, and so ends our service. So now, if you're